is French Polynesia worth the price tag?
Well, that was one of the first moments in life where it was coming up and I felt like breathless almost. We cashed in 500,000 Amex points.
I feel like I've never felt honeymoon.
We spent $27,000.
And let me tell you, you don't know you need a butler
Until you have a butler.
Oh my gosh. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Adventures. I'm Steven.
I'm Giselle.
And we are also known as the Lover's Passport. And this is our first episode back with season 3. Pretty excited.
Very excited.
We have been trying to film this for the past few months. It has been so busy though. We got married, we bought a house, we moved, we're launching a course this month. Like there's so much stuff going on, but we are very excited to start this back. And we have video now going.
It's wild. So now you guys get to see a lot of episodes with Karen, our lovely little chihuahua who is needy and loves to follow us around. So she's going to be making some episode appearances.
Yes, we're very, very excited to start the video part of it because we always feel like we're just sitting around this little mic. Now I feel like we're actually chatting with you. You're here, we're having coffee, relaxing.
We're FaceTiming BFFs, you know.
But we have a ton of really interesting episodes that we're going to talk about this whole season. We're going to be starting with one of our favorite moments, though, from all of 2023, which was our honeymoon that lovely Giselle here planned basically the whole thing. And we went to French Polynesia.
It was absolutely insane. It was definitely like the most honeymoon of honeymoons. And we've been on a lot of honeymoons considering our job as travel creators. So
yeah, I feel like French Polynesia is one of those places you always hear about, but you're always like, oh, it's probably too expensive, or like Bora Bora or the Maldives. It's always, I feel like it was just so far away that thinking that we would actually go there was a very interesting like thought. And that I remember we were deciding where we wanted to go. There were so many different options as far as like the honeymoon, and we finally decided. What was the reason we decided on French Polynesia? Do you remember?
Were in between French Polynesia and the Maldives, I think. And because we knew we wanted somewhere that we could actually relax and not like want to work the whole time. So we knew we wanted to do something tropical, because if we did something mountainous, we would be like, go, 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 go. And I think we would hate ourselves if we weren't like constantly shooting in the mountains. So we knew we wanted somewhere tropical. And then when we looked at the Maldives versus Bora Bora, it was like Bora Bora is a nonstop, easy 8-hour flight from LAX. It's super easy
to go to Bora Bora than it is
to Europe,
which is crazy
for us at least. So it was like a super easy thing. And then Maldives is like a hell of a travel day. It's like 3-4 planes. It's really far away, at least from here. And then also like you literally are only at the resort the whole time from what I was researching. And we still definitely want to go see the Maldives, but maybe for like a work trip that we don't have to pay for. But yeah, we were looking at that, and then we got this crazy flight drop Delta Sky Miles deal from Thrifty Traveler, and it was like 60 or 80,000 miles round trip from LAX to Tahiti. And so I got that drop and I immediately booked flights. I was like, looks like we're going to Bora Bora and French Polynesia. So we paid for our honeymoon majority on points. At least like the hotels and flights. Like the flights were all Delta Sky Miles plus like taxes. So I think it was only like $100 total or something like that.
Isn't that mind blowing that you can fly like 8 hours for that little, the whole like travel points and miles thing, how you can like spend miles or spend points in accumulation. It feels like you go to like McDonald's or like these places, they have like reward systems. It just
you get like $1 off French fries.
It's like reward systems on steroids that you could fly halfway around the world and for free. It's just mind blowing.
I think we'll have to do another episode on that, because when we last did one with our friend Janelle, we were just getting started into that, and that was like 2 years ago. And now we've gone on like
the queen.
Now I'm like so into it. We've been on like 11 flights this year. It's literally only the first week of March, and every single flight we've been on so far, I've paid for points and miles. So like that's madness. Wild that we were able to do that.
I think we're planning to do that for episode 2.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, we are. So keep in touch.
If you're new to the podcast, most of these episodes, the whole goal of it was unfiltered adventures. So they're unscripted. We don't like to like have too much of an idea where we're going. We're just gonna sit down, record. We do have an idea of the episodes though. So we have like
We
the
choose
first,
a topic.
yeah, we have like the first 3 episodes planned out as far as like French Polynesia. The second one's going to be on points and miles. The third one is going to be really interesting because we traveled so much in the Caribbean last year. We're really going to focus on what our favorite spots were out of all the different islands.
And least
such.
favorite.
But all of that is coming. In this episode, I feel like we're really going to dive into like, is French Polynesia worth the price tag?
Okay. So, because we're unfiltered here, full transparency, we balled on this honeymoon.
Yeah.
Like this
it
was
wasn't like we were trying to be budget.
No, this was the most expensive trip we have ever done, and it will probably hold that title for a very, very long time.
Should we say how much we spent on the trip, or should
Yes.
we keep that for the end?
No. We should say how much so people know what they're
It's
getting into.
embarrassing.
No. Okay, so you guys know I literally just said we paid for our flights in points, and then our hotels, most of them. Actually, no, not most of them.
The
Bora
expensive
Bora ones we paid for in points. So I had a ton of points stacked up from the last 3 years of flying and credit cards and things like that. But there were still a lot of things that we did not pay for in points and miles, like obviously food and inter-island transport and like
The
spas
excursions.
and experiences. Yeah, so all of that extra stuff, we spent $27,000. That's a shit ton of money.
But okay, to be fair, we do go and stay at 5-star resorts for free most of the time for work. We do travel, get paid to travel. So we have tons of international flights everywhere. We've been to Dubai and like one of the top hotels in the world. So for our honeymoon, we were sitting there trying to figure out, okay,
What's going to top our jobs?
what are we going to do that is going to be so extravagant and so incredible to where it's going to feel like a honeymoon? And we're not going to be working. With some of our friends were like, why didn't you just pitch your entire way through the hotels? And that wasn't what we wanted our honeymoon to be. We
didn't want to work.
We didn't. We like all we did really was be on our phones for maybe like
Steven still posted every day because he can't lose his real streak.
Okay, but it wasn't very long. It was maybe an hour, and then the rest of the day we were just out gallivanting around.
I mean, we were
going
still
swimming.
taking photos too because we were like, we can't not take photos here, but they were all for personal enjoyment. They
And
weren't for clients.
We did make a few YouTube videos comparing it, but it wasn't like YouTube videos are very short. It wasn't like we were recording that the whole time.
And we were having fun making those because they were just for funsies.
Yeah, but at the end of this, I feel like we'll have like a by island because we went to 5 islands.
we flew into Tahiti
So
and
one.
then we went to Moorea, however you say it. Then we went to Taha'a, Bora Bora, and Rangiroa.
So 5 islands.
Technically, we went to 6 because we stopped on Raiatea to
You're
get
right,
to
you're
Taha'a, but we didn't really explore there, so we don't really count it.
So I feel, should we work from the very beginning and talk through like what were our favorite islands, which islands we would go back to, etc.
Sure.
So we can start with Moorea. Moorea is probably like the second most well known out of all the islands. Or you think maybe
These are
third?
all the islands we chose are like right next to each other. There's a few different island chains and like archipelagos over in French Polynesia, and there's like hundreds of islands. Like it's not just these
Yeah,
5 islands.
I feel like when we were looking at the map, I was mind blown because when I think of like French Polynesia, I thought it was going to be like Hawaii. Like, okay, there's 4 or 5 islands. You can hop around to them. Bora Bora is the most famous one. But when you're looking at the map, it is like
there's a lot.
So far too from Tahiti to some of the far away islands. It's like multiple hours.
Yeah. So like we had a really hard time narrowing down which ones we were going to do too, because I had done all this research and I came out with it like 10 islands and I was like, I want to go to all of these, and that was not going to be feasible. So we were on our honeymoon for 2 weeks and we narrowed it down to those 5 islands, and we were doing about 3 nights, 3 days. I think it was like 3 nights.
3-ish. Because
Yeah.
some of them we stayed on a little
2 to 4 days each island. And so Moorea, we did, I believe, 2 nights, 3
Yeah.
days.
And when you think, so this was the first island that we like really went to. So first off, we stayed at the Sofitel, which was a stunning property.
Sofitel Kia Ora Resort.
We absolutely loved it. It was away from most of the other stuff, so it was kind of nice to have like our own part of the island that we could just go. Everyone said that was like the nicest beach, and it was. The water there, I feel like it's hard to explain how blue and just stunning the water is in
Well,
the area.
in terms of resorts, the other one that you can really stay at that's super popular is the Hilton. There's a ton of really cute like B&Bs on the island too. When we were out on our tours, we met some people that were staying at those. And if you're not going for the overwater bungalow, Moorea is actually much more affordable than you would think. I think they have some really cute B&Bs with like jacuzzis and views for like $200 a night, which compared to the overwater bungalows is a steal. And so if you're not going, or if you want to visit Moorea and you don't want to bull on a bungalow, you can definitely do this trip on a budget.
Yeah. And I feel like when you're thinking about Moorea, the first things that come to mind are like the adventure part. Like there's great mountains to go hiking in all over the place. Although the hikes are pretty extreme. They're very similar to like the Hawaii hikes.
Very
for most
like
of them.
muddy, humid.
Yeah, because they're all on these
elevation.
ridges to try and get up. So you can go ATV touring all over the island, which is really cool. Another part of the adventure. There's great snorkeling. I think that's where I don't know, would you say that we snorkeled with more stingrays and sharks on Bora Bora or on Moorea?
There were a lot on both, honestly.
It was probably pretty close, but you can go snorkeling and touch all of these stingrays. They come right up to you.
They
And
want
then
pets.
The best part about Moorea, though, because we went in October, is we went swimming with the humpback sharks. Not humpback sharks, humpback whales.
It's like, did you just invent a new species? Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. So that was actually the reason why we did our honeymoon in October, even though we got married in July, because we knew we wanted to do this experience. Like that was the bucket list experience for us. Even though overwater bungalows, obviously, we wanted to do. But particularly for the season, whales are only over in French Polynesia from, I think it was August to November, with prime time being
September,
October. Yeah. So we went for the 2 weeks in like early October and we did this tour. I think it was with Moorea Moana Adventures, and it was incredible. Like we did a private and a public because we wanted to compare the two. And since it was the honeymoon, we're like, all right, let's get a private one too. So we went out there in the middle. They take you on this little tiny boat, and the water on the ride out there is just like
Mind blowing,
jaw dropping. Like it is straight Gatorade, straight crystal clear blue turquoise water. Like it was so incredible. And Bora Bora has the same water too, if not better. But we get out there, and within 30 minutes they find the humpback whales, and then they're like, okay, go. Like you have a very short window.
Because it's kind of just guessing at a certain point, because they can't really see when they're coming up to breach.
Right. So they, with their expertise, kind of get the signs of when a whale is going to go down and when it's going to resurface. But it's like you never know where it's going to pop back up. So you have to be really quick. You have to have all your gear ready to go. And the boats can't be super close to the whales. So you have to swim at least like, 100 yards, 100 meters?
I would say, sometimes, like the first time that we went in, I feel like
they guessed pretty well.
Such a magical moment. So basically what happened is we got out there, there's tons of other boats that are trying to swim with these humpback whales, right? So our guide is like, okay, jump off in this spot. So we jump off. We're on a private tour, so it's just Giselle and I swimming around with our guide. And then our guide looks at us and they're like, look down.
And he's like, she's like pointing.
She's pointing straight down. So I look down, I'm like, what the hell is she looking at? There's nothing down there. So we keep waiting, and then all of a sudden you see this like little tiny speck like deep down in the blue water.
And it just emerges.
And it started coming up, and our guide started to freak out. She looked at us and was like,
it came really close to us. Like normally they don't come that close to you, but like if we're like right here, the whale was like coming up, but like instead of going up this way, it was coming directly at us. And they were like, don't move. So we were like, okay.
And it was this big mama humpback whale and this beautiful little calf, and they were just playing around with us, and they swam away. But afterwards our guide was like, that does not typically happen. Like usually they come up and they swim horizontally, and you kind of have to swim in order to keep up with them.
Like they just came to us. And they were talking a lot about like the spiritual energy of like the whales and the island, and you know, if you've watched Moana, you kind of get the vibes. And so like that was just, they're like, that never happens. And they just came up to us, and it was like the eyeball of the humpback whale is like this big, and it's just like staring into your soul. That was one of the first moments in life where it was coming up, and I felt like breathless almost. Like my heart rate started going up so high.
Yeah, it was definitely like I would say like a top probably 3 like animal encounters. We were just like, whoa, like this thing is massive. I am so small. It's such a beautiful, powerful creature. It was crazy.
It was truly breathtaking, and in a different way than like swimming with sharks.
Very
like
true.
sharks, it's like your adrenaline is going. This was like peaceful, but also like admirable. I don't know. It was so cool. Yeah. So if you get the chance to do that, I highly recommend it. There's a ton of different ethical and like legal things about swimming with humpback whales. So definitely recommend going out with Maria Moana because they're one of the recommended, trusted outfitters. But if you guys want any more info on that kind of stuff, just go check out our YouTube videos on it. And we also have a blog on it because it was fantastic and we go way more in depth. You can actually see us doing the thing instead of just us talking about it. So
yeah, it was absolutely incredible. But yeah, so that was basically Moorea. We would 100%.
Adventure capital.
We keep saying that we were thinking about like, we would go back there
and just get like
year.
an Airbnb or a VRBO or something.
It's like a great, like if you weren't going on a honeymoon experience and you were just wanting to go for a beautiful adventure.
An alternative to Hawaii, perhaps.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. When we were there at the Sofitel, they did like the whole
Polynesian night.
And it felt like we were in Hawaii. It was so, I feel like we can talk about that too, is the culture there. It was so jarring for me to show up. Everyone's there, looks exactly like they should be up. They're all Polynesian. The whole culture feels like you're in Hawaii, but
they all speak French.
It threw me off so hard. I was like, why are all of these Hawaiians speaking French? It was so foreign to me, but obviously makes sense. French Polynesia.
It's actually very interesting because the French Polynesians hate the French people.
Oh my gosh.
And obviously it's because of colonialization and like they don't really get a say in their own government. And so anytime we talk to like native Tahitians, they would always say like they prefer Americans over French people because the French people are so rude to them and they like don't really view them the same. And so it's very interesting to hear that kind of stuff is still very prominent. And they literally just got their first representative in the government like last year.
Yeah, at least that's what they were saying. They said that there's all kinds of problems where in order for them to get better paying jobs, right? All the people from French Polynesia have to go to France, get an education, but then from there, France basically gets to assign them where they're going to work. Like if they're a lawyer or a doctor, they're going to say, oh, well, we're going to have you go work in this part of France compared to go back to French Polynesia and be one of your smart workers there.
Like citizens,
Instead, France is sending a lot of lawyers from there and
like
they'll
French
send them
people
to French Polynesia and they end up taking a lot of the higher paying jobs.
Well, they'll also, it's like with the hospitality stuff, like a lot of French people will come and take like Tahitian jobs. So there's this whole thing out there.
That
definitely
could be a whole nother episode.
It was very interesting to hear about. I encourage you guys to do some research before you go and visit.
Oh, and they're hosting the Olympics out there, right?
Oh, so that was a whole other thing.
This is a bit, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have heard of it at this point, but they're on Tahiti, one of like the best well-preserved
surf breaks.
It's all the surf out there is like, it's almost a religion, like taking care of the water and caring for the coral and stuff. And there were already these areas where the surf coaches and the different people that were judging it could sit. But because there wasn't no shade structure, there was no bathroom on it. It wasn't like obviously the 2024 perfect industry
like lifeguard
standard.
station.
Yeah. So were tearing apart all this coral, building this big structure.
It was
for the
really
judges
terrible. Like
Yeah.
they really could have just used this old lifeguard station and brought some umbrellas.
Yeah.
It's very sad. And all of the surfers were trying to protest this happening. I don't know why the Olympics did that. That was honestly,
yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was so,
I don't know if it was
so
like
stupid.
the Olympics or if it was like the French government or who was like, yes,
I don't know.
Okay, we're not pointing fingers or anything. It was just very sad to hear about that from a lot of the locals that were going through it.
And just from an environmental perspective, like that's
I feel
terrible.
like on Moorea is where we chatted the most with like the locals. If we're talking about all the islands, obviously on Rangiroa when we get there, very different experience. But when you're just talking about asking questions, seeing what life is like, this felt like it was like a younger crowd. Like if you've ever been to Hawaii, like Maui's supposed to be like the romantic area. Oahu's like a lot of young people, a lot of tourists. If you go out to somewhere like Kauai, much more culture. I would compare like both Moorea and Tahiti to like an Oahu. They're definitely busier, lots of tourism, lots of young people going there, and it felt like there was a lot. They had a lot more voice.
But they're much smaller. Do not expect Oahu. It's like Moorea, there's like no car rental. There's like one car rental place. They're all manual stick shift things. And it's just, It's much more small island vibes. So
Yeah.
it's not as built up as the Hawaiian Islands, which is nice. You get a real local feel for that reason. But anyways, I feel like that's enough about Moorea. Should we move on to Taha'a?
Yeah, that was Moorea. Absolutely loved Moorea. Would go back 100%. The next island we went to was Taha'a.
And we stayed at the Taha'a by Pearl Resorts. And that was a real surprise. A lot of people don't go to Taha'a apparently, especially on the honeymoon. Like they stick to Bora Bora and Moorea and that's about it. And so we saw this from our friend Renee. She had gone out there with a Tahiti tourism board. And so I looked at her blogs a lot and she has a ton of really great resources, Renee Roaming. And we've actually had her on the podcast in season 1 if you guys want to go check out her episode. But she had a ton of really cool stuff. So we got inspired from her to go there and it was beautiful. We didn't do an overwater bungalow there. We did a private beach villa instead.
Okay, but the villa was ridiculous.
Yes, it was. I'm pretty sure it was cheaper than the bungalow, but honestly, like after
your
looking at
own?
the bungalows, we were like, no, we're pretty happy with our private beach villa with a pool.
Yeah, you
like,
have like almost your private beach. You have your private plunge pool, the bed, and everything was enclosed. The only thing that I will say was it was different coming from like staying normal to hotels to there because you have to close your doors pretty quick or else all the bugs and like
oh yeah,
other
there's a
things
lot of
will fly in.
mosquitoes. Not on Taha'a, but on Moorea, there were a ton
Yeah.
of mosquitoes. I got eaten alive that trip. Like in where was the other spot that I got eaten up? Was it Taha'a?
I'm not sure if it was Taha'a. That's a great question.
No, I think it was Moorea and Rangiroa. There were a ton
Yeah.
of mosquitoes.
If I was thinking of Taha'a, though, I feel like our experience there was much more cultural. Like we did we did a tour that was taking you through all the things that they produce on the island. So seeing how vanilla is made, kind of mind blowing. If
it's all
you've never,
hand pollinated.
yeah, there's no like usually nowadays there's lots of farm equipment, farm technology that can go through and like harvest all of the crops. But for vanilla, you have to hand pollinate. It's not the plant itself is not going to go and pollinate itself and create vanilla. It was very interesting seeing like they have to go and hand do this thousands of times to get the vanilla, and then from there they have to hand pull off the vanilla
'Cause they
have
don't
to
have
dry
bees.
It. Yeah, it makes sense why vanilla is so expensive, honestly.
Yeah, no, it was fascinating. And then we went to like a local rum distillery. We went to like some local food trucks. Like Taha'a does not have restaurants
No.
or like a ton of hotels. There's maybe like they have these things called pensions, which are essentially like Airbnb kind of style or like guest houses. But outside of that, you really only have a few tiny options for accommodation, which is why we stayed at La Taha'a because it's on its own motu away from Taha'a. So like it's what like a 10-minute
small
boat ride
little-
to
yeah,
the
small
actual
little
island. But yeah, the actual island of Taha'a was really cool. We went to a pearl farm, saw how like the black pearls were made, and
That was crazy too.
I got a little pearl ring. Yeah, that was cute. And yeah, that was all in one tour. We really only recommend like you only need one full day because you can drive around the island in like an hour.
Yeah, it's very, very small. And then right next to it, what was the island? So there was Taha'a.
And
there's
Raiatea. That's where you fly into.
Yeah, that we didn't spend any time on Raiatea besides, like G said, we got off the plane and hopped onto the boat. That seems to be like the extremely cultural. That was where all their warriors back however many years ago would go and train
And there's like a lot of cultural heritage site tours there, but I don't know. I haven't heard too many people actually like staying on that island. I don't know if you really can.
Yeah,
but I
think
wouldn't honestly, there's a lot, even if you can, there's not like a ton to do on Raiatea. So I would say go to Taha'a instead and do like a day tour in Raiatea if you want to do that. But yeah, we really were caught off guard by Taha'a. It was really nice.
Yeah,
like I think
our
that was
expectations weren't as high as they were for some of the other places.
and it felt like super peaceful and relaxing. Like if I was gonna go to French Polynesia and escape the crowds, I would go there.
Just like chill out, have my own little area, like definitely
Drink a ton of coconuts. They have coconuts everywhere on this island, like literally everywhere, thousands of coconuts. And it was way less crowded than Moorea and Bora Bora. So like if you want that privacy, Taha'a's your island.
Would we go back?
I think so, but not like every year. I
Yeah.
feel like Moorea, we could go back and do like an annual trip there, but
Very
I don't
true.
think Taha'a is like that. I feel like that's only for like special occasions.
I totally agree. I think that was what I was gonna say. Is if I was ranking them on like ones that I would go back to, Moorea, go back in a heartbeat. Taha, I feel like it'd be like once every 4 years, maybe, or like I feel like for a baby moon, you just
Yeah,
wanna
that would be
go
great for a baby
and
moon.
just chill out, like that would be a great spot. And then after Taha, we went to,
Bora Bora.
oh boy, here we go.
Oh my gosh. So right now, actually, it's pretty timely. The Tarte, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tarte. It's a makeup brand. I love their eyeshadow palettes. I use it all the
just
time.
learned that it was a makeup brand. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was like a candy.
Like sweet tarts. Yeah. But every year they do this massive trip called Trippin' with Tarte. And it's like this huge PR mega influencer thing where they invite the biggest like lifestyle influencers out on this trip and basically just gift them a shit ton of stuff and spoil the crap out of them. And they produce all this content. Like they don't get paid to go, but they like get so much out of it that like it's worth going. Yeah. And then the brands that are sponsoring this, like Tarte, get so much organic media mentions that it's like they still put it on. They were like the inventor of this. Like they've been doing this for like 10 plus years and started.
How have I never heard about
because
this?
It started on YouTube. And so they used to do it with all the YouTube girlies that I used to subscribe to, and now it's moved over to TikTok. But
yesterday I was sitting there and she's like, "We need to start posting Bora Bora content." And I was like, "What? Tarte's happening?" I was like, "What the heck is
Tripping
Tarte?"
with Tarte? Come on, yeah, it's relevant. And so yeah, I was like, we should capitalize on this. Everyone's looking at Bora Bora Four Seasons right now, like that's where they're staying. And anyways, I forget where I was going with that, but like
you were just so excited.
I was just like, oh my god, we've been there, and it's like one of the nicest places we have ever been.
If you want to go and have a honeymoon experience, out of everywhere we've gone in the world, all the places we've stayed, I feel like I've never felt honeymoon. Like I'm using that as a verb. I've never felt honeymoon on as much as Bora Bora.
That's not a verb, babe.
I'm using it as a verb.
That's not proper verb usage. I've never felt honeymoon. That's a noun.
Or you're right. You're never. I've been out
Someone's
of school
community college is showing.
Anyway, so we'll talk about two separate places. So the two places we stayed were Four Seasons Bora Bora and the St. Regis Bora Bora.
I like to say old money and new money. That's what it felt like.
They were very different. Like the Four Seasons is $6,000 a night to stay
on
there.
average, but there's ways to get around that. We did not pay that cash rate.
Yeah, we used points, but that's basically the only way you can get into. There's no Costco deals. There's no anything else. If you stay,
No, there are Costco deals. What are you talking about?
That was for the St. Regis.
No, there's Costco deals for Four Seasons too.
Oh, well, I'm incorrect.
Don't listen to Steven. He doesn't do our travel planning. I do. There are travel strategies to get into there, and they will do packages on Costco where you can do like 2 resorts on Bora Bora, 3 resorts on Bora Bora, 1 resort on Bora Bora, compared different islands. And most of those packages are around like 8 to 10 grand for a full week on Bora Bora. Now, if you book it individually and you aren't using points and miles, that would be a lot more expensive. You save a lot of moolah doing it through some sort of travel agency. As my mom's a travel agent, and she was like, "Don't you dare book through Costco Travel." And I was like, "What do you have against them?" But you don't get as many, or she was saying you like don't get as many like perks. But from all the people that we met out there,
everyone booked on Costco.
Everyone booked on Costco. Like literally 8 out of 10 people that we would talk to, they all booked on Costco. We booked on points, and then like I think one other couple actually like booked it on cash rate. I was like, must be nice to have that kind of money. But
I feel like another thing that you really have to think about when you're going to Bora Bora is like whether you want to just chill out and stay on the resorts, or if you want to go and do a bunch of exploring. Because I feel like that you can have 2 very different types of trips. Like we did a lot of the exploring. We probably did like
50-50.
50-50, yeah, because you are paying so much money for a lot of these resorts. If you're paying these stuff, even if you're doing the Costco travel, you're spending 10 grand for a week is crazy. So you're gonna want to spend most of your time on the resort,
like enjoying the property.
Exactly. Or are you spending more time off it, going and doing any of the diving or any of the snorkeling or checking out the other adventurous activities? In reality, I feel like if you were gonna get off the resort, the one thing you have to do is go jet skiing.
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun.
It was insane.
That was probably my most favorite activity we did on our entire honeymoon was jet skiing around Bora Bora. I was having such a ball. Like
she was losing her mind.
It was perfect weather. Everywhere we went, I was just like, oh my God, it's so blue. It's so blue there too. Oh my God, it's so blue.
The YouTube video, I mean, the
GoPro footage
video
are so
footage
funny.
is comical. You just hear, oh my gosh, and she took like so many videos, just
I
selfie
was
style.
stoked on life. I was so excited. And basically the tour we did, it was snorkeling with the stingrays and sharks in the morning, and they take you to a pizza place on like actual Bora Bora, not the resort islands, which is cool to see the actual like livable island,
Totally.
not the resort islands. And then after that, they take you back out on the jet ski tour. And oh my gosh, yeah, if there's one tour, definitely do that. If you guys are listening and you want that link, just DM us and we'll send it to you, because it was 100% worth the trip. There's also a ton of things we didn't do that are really cool. Like you can go, there's really good scuba diving out there. There's like paddleboarding, kayaking. We did that. All of the properties do have paddleboarding and kayaks for rent, which is nice, and they're all included in your stay. Oh, we did a canoe. That was crazy.
Man. The breakfast canoe. So like I said, we weren't working with any of these resorts, but I did want to fly my drone at these resorts. So
and you can't unless you have the resort permission.
Mostly because the airport is like the airplanes fly directly over the Four Seasons and the St. Regis, that they share the same little motu off of the direct island of Bora Bora. So since that is the case, you have to be a little bit careful, and just privacy. If people are spending all this money to stay,
they might be naked on their balcony or something.
You never know. So flying a drone was we had to be very cautious about it. So because of that, we reached out. Laundry's done. Because of the drone restrictions, we reached out to St. Regis and the Four Seasons.
All of the resorts, honestly.
Yeah, just to say like, hey, we're coming. Is there any way that we can fly the drone? The Four Seasons said, unfortunately, you can't fly the drone, but we will give you a free canoe breakfast.
No, that's not true.
Is that
the Four Seasons said no? The Four Seasons said no, and the St. Regis said, because you're content creators, yes.
Oh, true.
We'd love to gift you a free canoe breakfast as like a happy honeymoon gift. And that was so nice of them. They totally did not have to do that. And it was like no strings attached. They're like, sure, yeah, you can fly your drone and get a canoe breakfast. We were like, sick. We didn't really know what to expect because that was before we left too. And now I'm so happy that they did that, because that was such a cool experience. It was so fun.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see them like, I feel like we knew it was happening, right? So we were out on the front balcony, and all of a sudden, out of one of the corners, you see this little canoe come out, and we were like, oh, and there was one guy on it and one woman, and then the woman gets off, goes on to our little front patio, and the guy was like, all right, get on the canoe with us.
And we were like, wait, we get to go in the canoe? Like, we didn't know that we were going to go in the canoe. I just thought they were going to deliver the breakfast by canoe and not actually get a ride in it. So I was so excited. I was like, me? I get to go.
Yeah, so we were super stoked that we got to go out. It was absolutely stunning out that day, because the weather was raining some days, super windy some days. That day was like no wind, perfect sun. And then when we came back, there must have been enough food for like
an army.
There was easily 5 people. I don't even think
this was a spread across an entire table. I think we could have eaten that same breakfast for 3 days.
Oh yeah, easily. It was crazy how much food they got. But I feel like now we've switched from the Four Seasons to the St. Regis. The one thing about the St. Regis is you get a butler. And let me tell you, you don't know you need a butler
until you have a butler.
Oh my gosh.
She was amazing. Her name was Chloe.
Dude, shout out to Chloe.
And yeah, we gave her a huge shout out on our YouTube, and then she saw our video and she was like, oh my God, guys, that's so cool. But yeah, everyone in this Bora Bora Facebook group that I'm in always raves about Chloe. And I didn't really realize that until after we had her. And now anytime I see posts in there, they're like, oh my God, we had Chloe and she's the best. If
Incredible.
You can't, you can request Chloe, I guess, if she's still there. But
yeah, but I mean, the whole thing, we got a little golf cart. She was showing us around. It was great. But the one morning where we called and was like, hey, Chloe, can I get some French press coffee? Not 5 minutes later, shows up, French press coffee, fully poured. And she brought us a flower crown for Giselle. I was like,
yeah, I wanted a flower crown. And I was like, is there any way I can get one? It still costs money, obviously. But yeah, she got me a flower crown. She got the coffee. She got us in at a spa appointment when they originally said they were fully booked. She was like, let me see what I can do for you. Got us in for a couples massage the next day because we couldn't get in at the Four Seasons spa. They were like, no, we're fully booked till next week. And I was like, oh, that was one thing that I should mention too. Normally we book like trips 3 months, 4 months out. this trip, do not slack on.
You have to book so far.
We booked our flights probably like 6 months out, which we could have done better, but I got a really solid deal. So I didn't worry about that. The hotels, I was booking in, I want to say May for October, and almost all of the hotel rooms were gone. It was wild. And I kind of just forgot, like, oh yeah, this is like the trip for most people. So give yourself like a year to plan this. It's wild. Our whale reservations we made immediately in May too. Almost all of them were already sold out. So give yourself like at least a 6-month window to be planning this trip, because it will sell out, especially if you're going into peak season. The tours you want, the hotel rooms you want, like make the spa appointments, your dinner reservations for the properties. I don't know why I didn't know you could like do that in advance, because we travel for a living, and I just never have really done that where I was like, oh yeah, I need to make a reservation at my hotel. I never do that.
I think it's just because when you think of like French Polynesia, most people there are going for like
special occasions,
25th anniversary or honeymoon. No one's just like, oh, let's go to Bora Bora for the weekend.
Unless you're like real rich, but like, no, that's definitely the case. And so
I think that's been the only place where else do you think that would be the case in the Maldives? Because we've never experienced that level of like, you need to book this far in advance.
I don't know. If you guys have been to the Maldives, DM us on the Instagram and let us know. Like,
that'll be another episode eventually. We just haven't made it out there yet. It's so far.
I don't know if it's on my radar right now.
It's just so far from us.
Like, I think everyone talks about the Maldives. I'm more intrigued in like the Seychelles in Africa. Those look like super nice too. But anyways, more travel planning topics for another time.
Yeah. But would we go back to Bora Bora before Moorea?
If I had money, if I had a fat payday, hell yeah. Or if I had a ton of points, it would be a ton of points. So how we did it was I had Four Seasons does not have any like loyalty program. St. Regis does. St. Regis is a part of Marriott. So we are platinum members at Marriott. That's like our preferred hotel chain that we stay at. So we get extra member perks from there. And I had like 250,000 points at my disposal. So we spent those, and I think we only had to pay $2,000 for like taxes, fees, food there. And like the amenities, like the extra little things like the flower crown and our couples massage. So that's about how much we spent there.
And I believe it was what, $2,500 to $3,000 a night at the St. Regis if you were paying like full price.
That's like for the most basic room. Okay. If you're going for an overwater bungalow, it was definitely more expensive.
Okay, I thought for some reason
I think it was like three to four, 3 to 5 for like a nice overwater bungalow. And then at Four Seasons, we cashed in 500,000 Amex points. And we still had to pay like a couple thousand there too. Yeah. I think we still had to pay like 4,000 there for taxes, fees, and the food and all the extra stuff.
If you're looking for like to pay the most expensive out of the two, Four Seasons I think is definitely more expensive. But was it better? Like, you can go see the YouTube video. We did a whole comparison for like, what's in the mini fridge? How big is this?
Like, what do you get for the money at each spot?
I will say the bed at the Four Seasons
was so comfortable.
I don't know what kind of clouds or what that bed was, but it was hands down the comfiest bed I've ever been in.
Yeah, it was. It was. You like lay on it and you're like immediately sleep.
I wouldn't even say there's a close second, to be honest. Like
our bed's pretty
is like
comfy.
A good third place, but there's a gap.
Shout out Nectar.
So Bora Bora, 100% would recommend if you're ever thinking about going on a honeymoon.
Special occasion, anniversary, proposal. That would be an epic place to propose.
Dude, where are you going to go on the honeymoon if you propose in Bora Bora?
I don't know. You could just get married in Bora Bora and then spend your honeymoon there. Boom. Knock it out in one. But yeah, it was amazing.
After Bora Bora, we flew to Rangiroa.
Yes.
Completely different experience in Rangiroa.
Oh my gosh. We went from 5-star ultimate luxury and then went back to our humble beginnings of budget travel. And we stayed in an Airbnb that was like $100 a night. It was the most local island that we went to, I think, ever. Like, not just in French Polynesia, ever. Like, there was like no car rentals. Well, I think there is, but like no one does it. We got around the entire island by bike. Like we were biking around everywhere. Our Airbnb host did pick us up in his truck to bring us to the airport and back. But like, yeah, we biked the whole time and it's really humid and hot there. So like we're just like biking 30 minutes to get to this viewpoint and we're just like so sweaty. And that was nice that our Airbnb did come with the bike rentals. But yeah, there's like, super small island.
You literally have to bike 30 minutes to the grocery store, like in order to pick up some bananas.
Well, it depends where you're staying. We were like in the middle of the island, so and
there's only one technical like big resort.
Yeah,
right?
And that's under construction right now, I think.
Yeah, we
like they did have bungalows. I did want to book it, but it was completely sold out. It was really, really small. Rango was tiny, 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 and so yeah, we did the Airbnb route. Definitely the cheapest island. I think we maybe spent $400 the whole time we were there.
It's the biggest atoll in French Polynesia. So basically, think of like an eyeball. It's just like this giant string of circular, this like giant circle of reef, and then on all of those, there's like little bits of
coral and stuff.
Bits of coral that they built on.
And so like one side of one side of Rangaroa is all ocean, and then the other side is all lagoon. And the main thing to do on Rangaroa is scuba diving. So if you are a diver, this is like a diver's paradise. This was probably my favorite dives that we've ever done out in Taputa Pass. That's like the famous area, which is why we decided to go out there, because we got our advanced scuba license last year. We haven't filled you guys in on that. We got our advanced scuba license in Mexico on our mini moon, our other honeymoon.
We'll have a whole I feel like that's another great podcast
basically,
to talk about.
Steven got to play in one and I got to play in one. So that one was on Steven's.
Geez kicked my ass.
No. No, it didn't. Mexico was awesome. But that will be a great alternative for this episode. If this is too out there in terms of budget, what we did in Mexico was fantastic and much more.
Coming later in season 3 of
Unfiltered
Adventures.
We got a new episode on the list. But the scuba diving. They have these dolphins out there, and they are known to be super friendly to humans because they don't really have any natural predators out there in that particular area. And we did 4 dives out there with, I think we did top dive Rangaroa. They were awesome. Lots of mosquitoes.
Also need to book
so many mosquitoes
very far in advance.
Yeah, because this is like the thing to do on Rangaroa. There's a ton of dive shops. I think the most popular one was like 6 passengers.
Yeah,
that was like the Nat Geo recommended one. But these guys at Top Dive were super fun. We really liked going out with them, but we did do the same dive 4 times.
Yeah, well, so like G was saying, the biggest thing to do out there is go swimming with these dolphins. And these dolphins like to play in the current and the waves of Taputa Pass. And that's basically the only thing to really do out there on Rangaroa. So I wouldn't recommend going
unless you're diving.
Yeah. If everyone else, like, why would you go out to this island?
Just to relax and get a local vibe, I guess. But like if you are into activities, you need to be a diver or like a snorkeler. There's a ton of lagoons out there too, like that you can take a boat out to and do a day trip.
Multiple hours.
Yeah, but like if you want to just hang out on Rangaroa, you're definitely gonna want to be a scuba diver.
Yeah, but so let's talk about the different dives that we went on. So the first dive we went out, really cool, went down. We were super excited to see these dolphins.
Yeah.
Ended up not seeing the dolphins.
We could hear them. They were like teasing us. You could hear them talking to each other. But some of the biggest fish balls I've ever seen. Like there were thousands of fish.
It was really, really cool.
Saw some leaf fish.
That was the first dive. Went back up, went down for the second dive. Second dive, I believe we saw them further away, right? But the bad thing about this part was on the way up, we might have seen them in the distance. We were like, oh my gosh, we saw dolphins, but it wasn't really anything to write home about. On the way up, taking off the fins.
Taking off the dolphins.
And then taking off the fins, taking off all the scuba stuff, giving it up there. And we were using our GoPro to like record all the footage. And so I had my GoPro, stopped the recording, had it on the wrist strap, reached up to grab the ladder and was like, the GoPro is gone.
And this Taputa Pass's current is crazy.
Ridiculous.
If you lose something, it's gone. Like you will never find it. And so it was wild. We were like, no, our one thing that we got for this island, all of our footage is going to be gone.
So that was like the first big day of diving. Second day of diving is where it gets crazy. We go down, we see the dolphins.
We see a ton of them. There were like 6 or 7.
Oh my gosh. And when I tell you this would probably go, I don't know if this was above the whales or below. I think I would put it second compared to swimming with the whales on Moorea. But these dolphins like belly scratches. So
like for the record, you're not supposed to like touch wildlife ever. These dolphins literally swim up to you. And they came up to Steven while we were diving, and some like they're all of them kind of do this. They literally come up and hit him in the head with their tail because they want scratchies, and he's not giving them scratchies.
Well, the guide was sitting there like scratching one of them, and he was like, "Come here, do this." So I like leaned back on my back, and there's 2 dolphins above me. So I'm giving
and he's just
2
giving
dolphins
them scratchies,
both belly scratches. I'm like, what?
And I was sitting behind him. I didn't touch them because I was like, whatever. But
the GoPro is gone at this point.
I was so mad that we didn't have that.
We're not getting any footage. And then I stopped scratching their belly for a second. And like G said, one of them smacked me in the head. I was like, what is happening?
It's like
right
when
now?
Karen wants pets and we stop petting her and she like scoops up with her nose. That's what the dolphins were doing.
But while this was happening, I look over. I'm like high on life. I'm like, what is my life right now? I'm petting dolphins. This is amazing. And I look over at G and she's like, her eyes are all big, and you're in the water, so you can't talk to each other. There's no speaking. And she holds up a GoPro, and I'm like, what in the? I thought one of the guides had given her a GoPro in order to like film what was happening.
I didn't get it in time. Like the dolphins swam away, and right when they swam away, I look down, and maybe 5 feet in front of me, I see this GoPro hidden in this patch of coral. And I was like, no freaking way.
It was crazy.
No freaking way. And it wasn't our GoPro, but it was the same model. It was like another GoPro 11 or something.
It was brand new.
And it literally still had like the
oh my gosh
plastic tag on it.
This part killed me as like a content creator. So we pull up this GoPro and we get to the top, and I open it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's see like what footage is on there. There was dozens of hours. They saw crazy sharks. They saw hammerheads. They were swimming with the whales.
They went out to what was the island with the hammerhead sharks? There's another island in that same island chain, and I don't remember what it was. It might have been Huahine. And there's this thing called the hammerhead shark wall, and they went out there.
The footage looked insane, but I flipped the GoPro over, and it still had the plastic covering on
like
the lens.
The pull tag that you're supposed to take off. This guy was shooting with that everywhere. And he had some epic footage. Not only did he lose he lost his GoPro, but he also lost all of that quality footage by having that stupid little plastic thing on there. Not that he'll ever know.
Dude,
we tried to find him. So after that dive, I come back up on the dive boat, and like this had a rig on it. Like this had like lights on it, and like some other things, and like a little pulley. So he lost it like either the morning we were out there, like a dive before we did, or the day before, because we went back and checked the footage. Everything was in Italian, right?
Yeah. I couldn't read anything. So I was like trying to figure out how to switch it to English.
And so I got up on the boat when we were coming back up, because there was a full group of divers. I was like, did anyone lose a GoPro? And everyone's like, no. And I was like, okay, well, cool. And our guide, who remembered that we lost our GoPro the day after, he was like, what the heck is your luck? Like, no freaking way did you guys lose your GoPro and then find a brand new one the next day.
It was the honeymoon magic.
We literally, between the whales and the GoPro with the dolphins, yeah, that was crazy. And so we went back and we tried to figure out who it was, but we just couldn't. Everything was in Italian. And so yeah, we just kept it and used the dive case and then the GoPro for the next dive. Yeah, and then we saw some more dolphins.
We still have it. But yeah, that Rangaroa, would we go back?
If I was just scuba diving for like a day or two, yeah.
I think that, yeah, it would be a great little spot. Well, the hard part about scuba diving is you can scuba dive there, but
you have
after you scuba dive, you have to decompress. So you have to stay on land for a certain amount of time before you fly out. So if you do go there, I would say the minimum time you need is like 3 days, where you fly in the first day, hang out, second day you go scuba diving, third day you would fly out, which is kind of difficult. You don't want to stay on an island for 3 days. So we stayed there for, I think, 3 nights. So we were able to go scuba diving for a full 2 days and did the 4 dives. But definitely would recommend, like I said, one of my favorite animal encounters we've ever had.
Two of them, like between the dolphins and the whales.
We swam with one dolphin on Maria as well, but it wasn't the same. It was like we were dancing.
It was a much smaller dolphin.
These dolphins were thickies.
They were massive. They were like way bigger than Steven and I.
Yeah.
They were huge. But yeah, and then you can go up to Taputa Pass. Taputa Pass is
Taputi
view Taputi Pass. You can go up to Taputa Pass's viewpoint on land. That's like a 30-minute bike ride for us where we were staying, and watch the dolphins all jumping out of the water at sunset, and it's super magical. But yeah, I would say if you're a diver, it's worth it. I would say if you're not a diver, you could probably skip it. Yeah.
And the last island we went to was back to Tahiti.
But we didn't. I feel like we can't really talk about it because
I feel like we can.
We didn't adventure on Tahiti very much. Like, we literally just stayed in a hotel. We stayed at the Intercontinental, and honestly,
trash. I'm sorry.
Like, compared to all the other places, including the Airbnb in Rangaroa, we did not like the Intercontinental.
I feel
the
like
service was
awful,
terrible. Like, I think it's a 5-star resort.
Yeah,
and
the room
was okay. But like,
I don't know if okay. I guess if you're
there was a giant crab outside our
Oh my
room that
gosh.
was like hitting all the room service next door. Is really funny.
Yeah, we walk outside and this crab went through like World War III crab style or something. He
was massive.
His claw was probably like a good 3 or 4 inches. It was gigantic, but he was one clawed crab. His other claw was gone, and he was playing with like this
the dishware.
This it wasn't a glass. It was like a plastic cup, and he was like digging out all the soda or something in there. I don't know.
I know, but that was like our intro to the room. We get there and there's that, and then
Mr. Crab's old lost brother.
And then like getting food there, like the food was so overpriced.
It was insane.
Like, I don't know, just compared to the other places that were similar price tag, like in Bora Bora, not worth it. And I think the property's really beautiful, and I wish we had time to like actually go and enjoy the pool and stuff, but I probably wouldn't stay there again.
At least after visiting all those 5 islands and going back to Tahiti just felt busy, like LA kind of busy. It was
so
super
busy.
packed. The airport was insane. Taxi drivers were stressed. Everyone was like upset.
There's only like 20 taxi drivers on the island, right?
Yeah, it was insane. Like
and so like a plan for that. When you are going to Tahiti, when we landed and we needed a taxi driver, our lady was saying like they literally only have a certain amount of taxi drivers on the island. And so if there's a huge flight that comes in, you're going to be waiting for a while if you don't get lucky. And so luckily our hotel was only like a 7-minute drive from the airport. And so we got in and out pretty quick. But if you are going to the airport, pre-book your taxis. We did that. Like, we got in, we only spent one night there. And then immediately when we were checking in, we're like, can we schedule our taxi for the morning? Yeah. So that way we don't get stranded.
Yeah. It just felt like
lines
personally,
on lines
if you
on lines.
were like, I want to go to French Polynesia, I don't know if I would ever recommend you going to French Polynesia and only staying on Tahiti.
Oh my gosh, please don't do that. There's so much better things.
When I think of Hawaii, for instance, you can fly to Oahu and just stay there for a week and have an amazing vacation. But I don't think that is the case when you're thinking about French Polynesia. And Moorea is so close. It's less than an hour flight away.
And it's a 30-minute ferry. Like, it's really close. Or you can take a ferry.
So definitely would recommend, if you go, maybe fly in, stay one night on Tahiti if you have to. But I would recommend going to Moorea. Out of all the places that we went to, that definitely felt the most like busy city. Everyone was frustrated because they were just trying to get to the next spot on their vacation. That was definitely my least favorite island.
But yeah, if you wanted to experience Tahiti, I'd say 2 days max.
Yeah.
2 days max. And then spend your time elsewhere.
Speaking about the airport, I feel like one thing that was very interesting, there's like, especially coming from the US, TSA pre-check and all these, like the security is so tight.
Strict,
you go through the security one time there, and then there's none of the islands have any type of security. You just hop on, and like the locals, everyone, all the tourists would
just hang out
waiting in line to get onto the airport, and all of a sudden like 2 locals would just walk up, like give the attendant a high five and like just cut everyone go on the plane. It was so interesting to see like the airport
super
dynamic.
Chill, yeah.
I was like, is this what? I can't imagine like LAX ever being like
that.
Just
walking on
just
back in the
like,
80s.
I got a flight in 5 minutes. I'll see you later, brother.
Yeah, you really don't have to get there super early. Do not get there super early. Yeah. As someone who's type A and loves to get to the airport early, get to the airport like if you're checking bags, like an hour early where you need to drop bags, but that's it. Like, there's no security lines. Everything's super chill. There's always like a fun little bar or restaurant that you can hang out at, but No need to stress on your vacation around French Polynesia because you only go through security in Tahiti and that's it.
Yeah.
But we did the inter-island flight pass and that was the game changer.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely insane.
10 out of 10 recommend. Super nice to get around the islands.
I feel like we can wrap this episode up. I feel like I got some things in my head that I'm going to ask you and say overrated, worth it, or like not worth it.
Okay.
Just like the stereotypes
overrated,
in my head when I think
justified. Overrated, underrated, justified?
Yeah, I feel like that works. All right, flower crowns.
Justified.
I feel that was the first when I think of French Polynesian, I'm like, you got to get a flower crown.
I thought that was it made me feel like I was having my Moana moment.
All right, second thing, overwater bungalows.
Justified.
I think, dude, I don't know. I think of myself as like, oh, I like to climb mountains and I like to like sleep in the back of my car and road trip and I'm hardcore. You go to overwater bungalow, you feel like a king.
Steven discovered his inner luxuriousness.
Man, that was crazy. Anyway, all right, number 3. I would say, do you need to go see one of the Polynesian or Tahitian shows there?
Overrated.
I think that you can get a better sense and feel for the culture without going to one of those.
The
if you just
food,
talk to the locals.
I'm gonna say like they overcharge for the food on that, and
you stole my next one.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like they were not great in terms of food. And like I think all the fire performances were really awesome. I think out of the ones that we went to, we somehow ended up going to all of our hotels like had it the times we were there. I think Taha's was way better than Maria's. And then there's this guy on Taha named Tattoo, and he's like this sick like
guy was a total
fire
kook.
breather man, and he's awesome. But yeah, I would maybe do it once, and if I was going to do it, I'd do it in Bora Bora, not at any of the other spots.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought they were a little overrated. I think the ones in Hawaii I liked better if we're talking about that, but I know they're different cultures, obviously. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do those again. Unless I did it at like a more, I don't want to do it at a resort. I would rather do it at like a cultural center.
That is a great thing.
I feel like that's because like there's Polynesian cultural centers, I'm sure, on some of the islands, and we just didn't look at it.
Yeah.
I think maybe in Tahiti they might have one. Who knows? But
all right, we're gonna do this per island because I think this will be interesting. Maria, when we go back, Airbnb or resort?
Can I say both? Can we do? I would do majority of the time in an Airbnb, and then do like the last night or two.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, second one, Taha. Would you do Airbnb or resort?
There's not really too many Airbnbs. I would say resort there because there's not too much to do on the actual island.
I agree. All right, next up, Bora Bora.
Resorts.
I would have to agree, dude. When we're telling you like the Four Seasons and the St. Regis, like
they're literally the two best hotels we've ever stayed in, and we've stayed in some pretty nice ones. I feel like the other ones are probably like the Atlantis, the Palm in Dubai.
Yeah, that one was pretty sick.
And then I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that compare to that.
Those are definitely like
those are probably the top 3 when I like think of the best hotels you've ever been in.
We've been to the one in Monterey was
Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge.
Oh, that one's pretty nice
in
too.
Canada. Shout out Laura. We love you guys over there. They're awesome.
All right, so that
side note there.
Next, Rangaroa.
Airbnb, definitely Airbnb.
All right.
I don't think you can stay at the luxury resort. Like I said, I think it's under construction, but I liked having a nice local feel.
I like that.
We had this little pizza truck right next door to us, and there's this guy in this pizza truck who would just like come out and hand make you pizza.
Well, I think it was crazy.
It was cool.
So I feel like we got to paint the picture. Imagine you walk up to a house. Like think of your neighbor directly next to you. He's got like a small little
like
square shed in the front, and there's a bell that says ring for pizza. So you walk up to your neighbor, you hit the bell, and you wait 2 minutes. All of a sudden you see this guy with a do-rag stick his head out, walks outside, puts on his apron and says, all right, what do you want? Fires up the oven and cooks it. Like it was the craziest thing. I was like, this is the most local experience I've ever had in my life. Like bro was in there watching TV.
I know, he just comes out and makes his pizza.
What?
We went there like every day too. But
it was good pizza.
Yeah. And keep in mind for all of this, if you're doing a lot more local stuff, having some French familiarity is definitely important because we definitely needed some Google Translate. I took French in high school, and so like I felt fine having conversational French. Like I could get us around. I could ask for like certain things. Yeah, Steven was trying to ask the guys on Rangaroa where the bathroom was, and he was like, restroom, bathroom,
Banyo.
banyo, like whatever. was like, no,
The
Steven.
loo.
No.
No, it's not the loo.
No. In French,
What is
it's
loo?
it's toilette.
Oh,
Le toilette.
you know that's it. I thought
You just
that was
say,
a lot more complicated.
où est la toilette?
All right,
Where
learning
is
French
the
on the
toilet?
podcast.
Yeah.
All right, last thing for all the islands, the blue water.
Bora Bora. But it's like different shades of blue depending on where you're staying.
This is true.
We learned this on our jet ski tour. The Conrad has like this deep blue, like it's like a dark blue, but it's beautiful. And then like I think the Intercontinental Thalasso's area has this insane light blue. And then the Four Seasons in St. Regis had about the same because they share the mode too. It's this turquoise blue. Like each resort had its own color blue.
Yeah, I definitely think like when you think of Bora Bora, you think of the beautiful, stunning blue water, and it lived up to the hype.
It was
Definitely.
like as if a filter was like slapped on there. That's how you see it in real life. It honestly was insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that just about wraps up our time in French Polynesia. It was a dream bucket list honeymoon. And if you guys are planning on, having a baller honeymoon,
It's worth the hype.
it's worth that. We did a more, I don't want to say budget wedding because it wasn't a budget wedding, but we did a smaller wedding so that we could ball out on the honeymoon.
That's a good talk. We were discussing if we wanted to do a wedding episode, but we know Unfiltered Adventures is mostly like travel, content creation stuff. So let us know. Shoot us a DM or shoot us a DM or because we'll be posting this as a YouTube video too, or let us know down in the comments. Would you be interested in hearing like our things that were worth it, things we didn't think was worth it, like why we planned our wedding the way it was? Let us know if you'd be interested. If not, no worries.
I told Steven you probably wouldn't be interested. So
just let us know. We have lots of fun things planned for this season 3 of Unfiltered Adventures. But with that, we're going to start wrapping up this episode. As always, if you know anyone that you think might be interested in listening about Bora Bora, if you could share it with one other person, that is the best way that you can help support this podcast, whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, or if you're watching on YouTube, even just giving us a share in your story and saying like Unfiltered Adventures season 3 is back, baby, like whatever you want. Sharing it with one other person is the best way you can help us.
I was going to say, if you want extra credit, share it with 5.
Oh, shoot. She a high roller over here. We're manifesting 5.
Oh, yeah. And if you tag us in your stories, Unfiltered Adventures Podcast or The Lover's Passport, we will repost it. So
there we go. Saw it here first. You'll get an extra 30 to 50,000 views to your account. All right. And don't forget as well, if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a 5-star review on wherever you are listening. That is the second best way you can help support this podcast. So we continue to make these fun episodes because we got the amount of requests we had for like, when's the podcast coming back? When's it coming back?
You guys are awesome.
Insane.
I was really surprised. This is like our just fun platform. We don't monetize this platform.
No money, yeah.
We don't do anything but just chat with you guys. And the amount of requests when we hadn't put out an episode in like, it's now almost been a year. Everyone was
really?
like, yeah, I think we stopped in March or April of last year.
Man, we're slacking, guys.
I know. We're sorry it took so long. We're so excited to come back here with season 3, and we hope you guys are going to be excited for what we have coming up.
Yeah, but with that, we will see you in the next episode of Unfiltered Adventures.
Bye.